Welcome to Math 124, Section 13. This is Introduction to Statistics, and we're looking at Section 5.1, Probability Rules today. Thanks for joining me online. Each day I'd like for you to watch the videos before you come to class being on Blackboard Collaborate, and at that time we'll be able to discuss what you watched in the video, and you'll be able to start your homework and answer any questions you have about the videos, about the reading that you should still be doing before each class, and about the homework that you'll be able to work on as we talk. We'll try to be a little more optimistic than Andy Rooney, or another name for today's lesson, trial by dice. So let's start with some probability definitions. First off, a trial is a procedure with uncertain results that can be repeated. For instance, rolling a die. Okay, when you roll a die, you could roll a 6, a 5, a 4, a 3, a 2, or a 1. And each time you roll that would be considered a trial. So we've defined a trial. Now let's define an outcome. An outcome would be the result of a trial. And unfortunately, this is a little remnant of this originally being a PowerPoint. This should just say outcome. What on a PowerPoint would be revealed after I clicked is actually this, E sub 1. That would be the symbol for an outcome, a result of a trial. Why not a no? Hey, it's statistics. We do things strangely. Okay, there's a reason actually we choose the E. It will become more apparent shortly. Okay, an outcome is the result of a trial, and we symbolize it with E sub I. Okay, so we could say E sub 1, because remember I stands for the index, or just the number of the trial. So therefore we have our first roll might be E sub 1, then E sub 2. It just refers to the number of the roll. And it probably won't show up in a very nice order like that, right? It'll probably be random. Sorry, I've been doing a lot of videos today. My voice and the audio quality should get better as the week progresses. Okay, so let's just say that for some reason, when you roll this, it actually turns out that you roll a 6, a 5, a 4, a 3, a 2, and then a 1. Each time you roll, that is known as a trial. And let me take a different color. A trial. And the outcome of trial 1 would be E sub 1. The outcome would be a 6. For trial 2, the outcome 2, sub 2, would be 5, if you happen to roll in order. Okay. Or you could flip a coin, right? And if you flipped a coin, let's go ahead and talk about that. Okay, your trial 1 of flipping a coin would result in an outcome, E sub 1, and that might be that your coin lands heads. So the way you could write the outcome of that trial would be an H in brackets. Another event might be that it lands tails up, which you could write in brackets as a T. Okay, so probability definitions. Trial, a procedure with uncertain results that can be repeated, like rolling a die or flipping a coin. An outcome is the result of a trial. We call that E sub I. And then we have the sample space. That's the set of all possible outcomes. So E sub 1, E sub 2, etc., 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 up until E sub n. And what is n? Well, it's the number of possible outcomes. Sample space, you're just listing whatever could happen, possibly. For instance, if you are listing the sample space of rolling a 6-sided die, here it is symbolically, okay? But when you actually go to list the outcomes, you just list them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 within the brackets. That is the sample space. Okay, and for flipping a coin, your sample space would just be heads or tails, H or T. All right, so the probability of rolling a 6 on a 6-sided die is 1/6. So what's the probability of rolling a 5? Well, it's a 6-sided die, and only one of the sides has a 5 on it. Therefore, the probability is also 1 out of 6. Okay? So instead of writing the probability of 6 occurring, you could write it as the probability of E sub 1 occurring, as long as you've defined somewhere that E sub 1 is 6. So this is just going into some of the notations. But basically, remember, the probability of rolling a 5, a 6, a 3, any of those numbers on a die, one at a time, the probability of rolling one of them is 1/6. Okay? So here they are all listed, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Probability of each separate event occurring is 1/6, but if you add them all up, you get 6 over 6 or 1. So if you roll a 6-sided die, and provided you don't drop it down a grade or something, you will have rolled one of the numbers on the die. That is a certainty. You will have rolled a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or a 6. So the probability that you roll one of those is 1. Okay? However, if you have a 4-sided die, the probabilities will be different. There are only 4 possibilities, and for this die, if you're wondering how you read this, the 4 is up, so this would be rolling a 4 on a 4-sided die. So the probability of doing that is 1 out of 4. The probability of rolling a 3 on a 4-sided die is 1 out of 4. Okay? The probability of rolling a 7 on either a 4-sided die or a 6-sided die, that's not going to happen. Not if you're just rolling one of them at a time. Okay? And the probability of rolling a 0 is 0. You could drop it down a hole and never know what you rolled, but you're not going to roll a 0. Okay, so moving on up. Therefore, the probability of a certainty occurring, an event that is certain, is 1. And the probability of an impossibility occurring is 0. All right, so far we have the definition of a trial, an outcome, an event, and what is hiding behind that event. It's actually a capital E. So we use a small e to indicate one outcome, but we use a big E to represent a collection of outcomes. So that's where the little e comes from. Okay, for instance, our small e outcomes could be the numbers on the sides of a die. A large E event would be to roll an even number, like 2, 4, or 6. These are both different ways of saying the same thing. Okay? An event could be rolling a number that is greater than 2. And on a 6-sided die, there are 4 ways to do that. You could roll 3, 4, 5, or 6. An event could be also just a single outcome, roll a 5. So this last one could be represented either with a small e or with a large e. Either way would be appropriate. But definitely you want a large E for these events because they are collections of outcomes. Okay, so let's take a look at this. We're going to look at theoretical probability first. Okay, that's the probability that an event occurs. So you define your event and then think about the probability that it occurs. And the probability that an event occurs is represented by n with an e in parentheses over m with an s in parentheses, meaning the number of ways e can occur over the number of outcomes in the sample space. For example, here we have all of the outcomes listed on the left. The event we are looking at is rolling an even number. Okay, and there are 3 ways to do that on a 6-sided die. You can roll a 2, 4, or a 6. So therefore, this number of ways it can occur is your 3. There are 6 possible outcomes in the sample space. They're all listed right here, 6 of them. So 3 over 6 becomes the probability of rolling an even number. And we always want to reduce if we can, or express it as a decimal. Okay, next let's look at the event that we roll a number greater than 2. Okay, so that would be 3, 4, 5, or 6. There are 4 ways to roll a number greater than 2. So the 4 goes right there. We still have 6 possible outcomes in our sample space, and that becomes the denominator. So we have 4 over 6, which can reduce to 2 over 3, or it can be expressed as a decimal. Okay? It's going to be 0.666, repeating forever. At some point, you have to round. Okay, and then we have the event that you roll just a 5. And the probability of that is, of course, 1 over 6. Or 0.166, repeating forever. Okay, so here are some examples of trials. You could choose a card. You could flip a coin. You could flip 3 coins. You could roll a die. You could roll a die twice. You could pull a slot machine lever. Although I don't recommend you throw away your money gambling. And remember, the lottery is just a tax on people who are bad at math. Okay, I'm almost running out of time here on this video. YouTube will only let me upload 15 minutes at a time. So I'm going to go get something to drink to take care of my throat. I'm going to end this video. This will be part A of the video that you should watch before tomorrow when we meet on Collaborate. When I return, I will be recording part B. Make sure you look for it in Blackboard as well. See you in a bit.